of Aligned at Work. And each month, I sit down with the change makers who are navigating these difficult waters of life and work. We dive deep into what's working, what isn't, and what's next in leadership and life. It's about real people and real impact. I invite you to be part of this conversation. Just put your comments and questions down below, and we'll be happy to address them. Your voice matters. I can't wait for you to meet today's guest. And here we are. And today's guest is Jeannee Parker Martin, and she is president and CEO of LeadingAge California. But first, let me tell you a little bit about who I am and why we're here. I am Laurie Battaglia, the CEO of Aligned at Work in Scottsdale, Arizona. And Aligned at Work is all about creating workplaces where people thrive. We look to the future all the time. We find that a lot of times when people call us in, they are worried about what the next generations are thinking about, how the expectations are changing, and how we lead across the generations. So it kind of makes sense that we're here talking to Jeannee today. I met Jeannee a couple of years ago when I started speaking at LeadingAge California's Bold conference, and then did a couple of other events for them as well. So I asked Jeannee to be my guest because I find LeadingAge and aging services conversations really interesting. You may have noticed that my hair is a certain color, so I have a vested interest in learning more about it. Jeannee, can you tell us a little bit about you, LeadingAge California, and then we'll launch into our conversation.
Sure. Well, thank you again, Laurie. It's great to see you. And it's also great to be here and with such a great audience, from around the country. So thank you again. So about me, wow. Well, first, I'm a mom. Since it was just Mother's Day, I'm a mom. I have 3 kids, and they live around the country. And I'm married here in San Francisco. I've lived here for a long time now. And I am the president and CEO at LeadingAge California, an association that's based in Sacramento. So yes, I commute once in a while to work, not every single day, but I do commute. And it's been a great opportunity to make an impact on older adult services here in the state of California.
Yeah. And you've been with LeadingAge for how long now?
This is I'm just celebrating my 9th anniversary next month. It's amazing that it's good. Fast. A lot has gone on in those 9 years. It's been an exciting time.
Yes. And I think I came into the picture with speaking at the conference right after the pandemic loosened a bit, but your crowd was very much still in that mode because they're dealing with aging adults. And so what I found at that conference, even more so than in the world in general, was, more masking and more being very cautious about not taking anything back because of the population that you serve so often.
Yeah, and about that time, we also renamed our conference to Bold. We decided that we wanted to change it up, be more engaged. And when you say bold, you feel empowered to do things differently. You feel empowered to be creative. You feel empowered to make a difference in in the lives of older adults who are often living in communities together in congregate settings, or retirement communities, or affordable senior housing communities, or in their own homes where they're receiving home and community-based services like home health and hospice and PACE.
Yeah. I've learned a lot just from walking around the expo and seeing all the different kinds of vendors, things that I didn't really know existed. But once either our parents or grandparents are of a certain age or we are of a certain age, we all need those services that keep us vital and active and thriving as long as we really can.
And I'm sure that that everyone is hearing. It's not just those of us who are aging, since we all are, but in California, there are about 5 million people over 65. And so you can imagine the demand, the economy, everything that surrounds all of the things that you saw in the exhibit hall, for example, that relate to providing care, services, products to people who are older, including supporting their family members with, for example, caregiving applications where they can call in and have a secure conversation with one of their family members, or even some of the remote monitoring devices where caregivers, whether they're in a congregate setting or in their own home, can monitor what's happening with an individual who might need support. So it's been a great 9 years. It's really hard to imagine everything that's occurred in this 9-year period.
Yes.
And especially when you talk to somebody who's, maybe 100 and they've lived through lots of different decades.
Yeah.
I feel like this last decade has been impactful in many ways that we could never have predicted.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of the most popular topics I talk about right now is thriving in times of disruption and change.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. It's really about you leading yourself through that, because it is such a just a really impactful, and I don't even know how to describe it, decade. The other thing you mentioned there was, I remember I think it was the first time I went to Bold. I got given a thing that is connected to Alexa, and my husband has it in his office. And it was interesting to me because I found out that things like AI and monitoring through things like Alexa can be a big part of aging services. Do you have any examples of that you can think of?
Yeah, gosh, we're doing so much right now in AI. In fact, we have a very big project with IDEO, which is a global human-centered design firm that happens to be based in San Francisco. It's coincidence. We've been working with them, Laurie, since last June on how to reimagine services for older adults. It's one of our biggest initiatives and one of our kind of biggest impact initiatives I think that we have. We identified 6 designs that we think will impact older people as well as those that care for them. And so we're working right now on a tool that will be AI driven to help caregivers in our workforce. So for example, you may be caring for an older parent, a younger child, a partner who is ill or disabled. Mm-hmm. You may have a lot of other things going on in your private life that impacts you at work. So we're creating a tool using AI. And in fact, in 2 weeks, in the first 2 weeks of June, we'll be working with 8 of our members in what's called a sprint, where we're going to delve deeply into this. And there are some tools out there, and we're looking at how we might be able to incorporate some of those tools as well. One example is a company called Home Care Club. You can look it up online. It's an AI-driven tool that allows you to get caregiving resources, find provider resources, even work inside your organization with resources. So it's really pretty exciting. At our annual conference this year, and we did it last year we had AI 101 because it was still sort of new then. Now it feels like everybody thinks AI is part of it. And it is. Yeah. So this year we have a more distinguished group, not more distinguished, but a little deeper dive into AI, and we have an AI track. So it's really exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a fascinating thing. I think a lot of people have a love-hate relationship with it. And, you want to go toward it. You worry about what the risks are or how it could get out of control. But on the other hand, it just makes so many people's lives a lot easier. So I'm pro AI with the side of let's think about the risk involved in it too and use our powers for good.
Yes. So, yeah, it's complicated. And I think that we don't even recognize how much AI is already existing. So for example, all those chatbots that we use, those are examples of AI in action. If you if you do online banking, if you use your Macy's account online, if you're shopping on Amazon, all those little chatbots are really there because they're AI driven.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're starting to cross the line to where you really can't tell that they're not humans that you're speaking to until suddenly it hands you off to a human, perhaps.
Yes.
Maybe. So
no, it's true. Generative AI is very powerful. And I think also what we haven't really gotten to too much in care services here in the United States are robotics that are humanoids. And I think as those begin in other fields, they use robots all the time. So for example, newspaper printing, that's all driven by robots taking the newspapers around the work, whatever their warehouse is. So I think as we get more comfortable and we develop tools with robotics, they will become a very important part of our current and future workforce.
Yeah. And I can see that just, I'm thinking I was down at ASU last week. Arizona State University has little robot, they kind of look like ice chests on wheels, kind of, and they deliver food. And it's not uncommon to watch one go down the bicycle lane next to the car as it's delivering something on campus. And that campus is really large. So you're just out on really the streets of Tempe, Arizona. We also have robot cars here, as I know they do in San Francisco too. So our lives are about to get more interesting as time goes on, I think.
Well, those little dining services robots are really important, and they are in many retirement communities today. Many of our members have them.
Nice.
And also during COVID, there were a few new tools that were developed that relate to cleaning and maintenance sanitary services within the context of congregate settings, like a retirement community or affordable housing. So those kind of activities are beginning to increase. And I think the costs of all of them, hopefully, will continue to come down.
Yeah. So I hope people that are listening, if they're not familiar with aging services, are getting an idea about how aging services is keeping up with everybody else in the world, and that senior people are going to need to really adapt to things like AI and robots and things like that. But I think it is going to happen. I think it's, we get a reputation as we get older that we're not open to the technology and things. But I know for me, I certainly am. And I've gotten more open to it as I've naturally aged. So I think it's going to be one of those things that's going to be a game changer in a lot of ways. And I agree with you. If someone's ill, then why not send in the robot to deliver something versus a human that might carry it to the next room or the next room down. Can you talk a little bit about let's talk about the workforce a little bit, because I do hear in every industry that I talk to, but especially in aging services, that it's a hard time to find people to meet their needs and their demands, all the things that workforces come up with, for better or for worse. Are there some that are unique to aging services? And then what do you see overall when it comes to leading our workforce today?
Right. This has been a very important activity and initiative for LeadingAge California. Since 2019, we've had a major initiative to grow the workforce and enhance the workforce, and put into place a workforce blueprint for action that we launched in 2019, and that we continue to review, evaluate, and implement over a course of a 10-year period. So one of the major issues that's occurring that I think is misunderstood is something that Ron Hetrick from Lighthouse, he wrote an article called The Demographic Drought a couple of years ago, and he's continued to update it. What he has exposed, I think, is that not only are there fewer people entering the workforce, but there are more people leaving the workforce. Yeah. So what used to be a 5-to-1 ratio, 5 people entering to 1 person leaving, is now a 1-to-1 ratio. And by 2030 in the US, it will be less than 1.
Wow.
And there are a few other complications. We can talk about bringing in people from other countries who are immigrants to help us, which is very important. Some countries, like the Philippines, have focused on bringing nurses and sending nurses to the U.S., which has been very helpful for our workforce. However, what they're finding in the Philippines now is that they're starting to experience a drought of healthcare providers because they've been shipping them out to other countries. So what we're seeing here in the U.S., not having to do anything with healthcare, is this population shift between fewer people entering and more people leaving. So as we see people turning 65, now 70, 75, leaving the workforce, many people are working a lot longer than they did because they know they'll live a lot longer, and maybe haven't saved enough, so they have to work longer. there's that impact. But at the caregiving level in healthcare, there are not enough workers, compounded by this other fact that there just aren't enough people coming into the workforce. So in our field, serving older adults, the biggest needs are in nursing care staff. So registered nurses, licensed vocational nurses, CNAs, which are certified nursing assistants, home health aides, and healthcare social workers. Those are the biggest demand in the field of caring. Now, that doesn't mean that there also aren't demands in the maintenance service levels as well as dining services levels. But we're starting to see some bigger impact of robotics in some of those other areas. So LeadingAge California applied for and was awarded a $25 million grant that became $35 million over the course of a 3-year period. And we were, that grant is called the Gateway In Project. And we have been able to graduate about 6,000 people who fall into that category of CNAs, home health aides, and healthcare social workers. So we are deliberately and very intentionally promoting growth in the workforce amongst that subcategory. We also right now are looking to continue and expand after these grants end this year, to continue and expand the Gateway In Project, working with other partners across the state of California. And this has been the first and the largest initiative of its kind that has shown real results in the United States. So we're very, very excited, very honored to have been recognized by the state and awarded this funding, but also are seeing the impact on the ground day to day. Some of these individuals will continue to grow in the field. So they will become RNs, they'll become LVNs, and they also will become leaders. And so as a result of that initiative, we were awarded a smaller grant, much smaller, to train high schools, to expose high school students.
Oh, nice.
Now, we started that initiative about a year ago and just were awarded a little bit more funding to expose high school students to working with older adults in the settings that our members have. So retirement communities, affordable housing, and home and community-based services. So we're very excited about that initiative because we know that once you're exposed to something, you're more likely to stay with it.
Yes.
We know that from our parents. Some of us went into healthcare because maybe a parent was a nurse or a physician, maybe an uncle was, an aunt, in that realm, and likewise other fields. So we're excited that this may, again, continue to prove some real results for the state of California.
Yeah, I think it's really necessary for leaders in various industries to figure out where the next workforce is coming from and go grow their own, and really give people the chance to grow within the industry, within the jobs, and thrive. And like you said, get to the level where they are leading other people. There just seems to be so much opportunity there. And, I share probably way too many jobs on LinkedIn when I see them come up, because I keep hearing like, I can't find a job, we can't find good people. And I'm like, how are we not bringing that together? So as often as I can, I just share jobs. I just repost jobs as I see them and try to get that out there. I think it is. Have you seen, I talk sometimes about how the rules are changing because people's expectations of their leaders are changing. Have you seen that impact directly on the leaders that are members of LeadingAge California?
In the sense that we're trying to grow leadership in organizations. Some of our larger members have leadership development programs in their organizations. We have Emerge, which is our own leadership development program. And that particular program is one that focuses on existing growing leaders, essentially emerging leaders in the workforce. And those leaders then get additional training through us and go back to their workforce. And we've had about, 200, 250 people graduate from that program. It's about 20 to 25 per year. And we're now looking to create a certification program that will be for supervisors, managers, and executives. So again, trying to build that leadership and build and grow capabilities in the workforce.
Yeah, absolutely. And it looks like we have one question coming through. So I do want to say to everyone that is on one of our platforms, if you put questions in there, we should see them on our side. And if for some reason I don't, Fawn, who's in the background running things, will make sure that we see what they are. But this one is from Dr. Pauline Martinez. And she said, the Gateway Inn project sounds fantastic. Are any of these efforts occurring in rural or frontier parts of California? The workforce shortages are exacerbated in rural regions. Thanks for your great work.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Martinez. We definitely are working in many counties across the state. As some of you know, there are 58 counties in California. We do reach out in all counties. All counties don't have the training programs, so we are able to bring staff to central locations. So if you're in Northern California, we have various places in Northern California where students can come, and our funding, which is in the end, it's actually ending in June. We've been able to pay for things like hotels and or living circumstances during the period of the training program. We pay for transportation, we pay for food for those who are food insecure, and supplies. And there are some other items. There's some caps on that, but it's been a great program and allowed more individuals to become trained because of it. We're now morphing this into an online program to the degree that we are allowed to from a regulatory standpoint. So we will be offering an online program and we'll partner with our members in the areas where we have students. And we do have members across the state, not in all 58 counties, but close to all 58 counties. And we know some of those counties are huge and rural as you get to the western side of the state and to the northern, particularly the northeastern part. I mean, the eastern part of the state in the northeast. So,
yes, California is a really big place. If you've ever tried to drive it, folks, it will take
really
you
big.
a while.
Yeah. As Pauline points out, it's very, very rural.
Yeah.
When you get into the northeastern part of our state in the mountainous areas, it's very rural. And so we've tried to figure out ways that we can impact rural communities. We know it's harder and we know we're not perfect in this, but we have tried our best to reach as many people in the 58 counties as we can.
Well, it sounds like there's a virtual component there. And I think having grown up in a rural area in Pennsylvania back in the day, we are the folks that correspondence courses were created for way, way, way back when. But now being on Zoom or being on something where you can stream for the pieces that can be done that way, I think really opens it up to a lot more people. There's just more things available now than what there used to be.
I know that some links to our website have been put in the chat, and you might want to look at thegatewayinproject.org. For those of you who might be interested to learn more about it. And we also have a career center on our website that's free to our members, but there are positions that are posted all the time by our members and by interested individuals. So that's a good way to look as well if people are looking for workers.
Okay, very good. I think some of those job boards that are on sites are just fantastic ways to keep in touch with all the jobs in a certain industry. I just think that's fantastic. If there are more questions, by the way, please do ask them. We will see them and we will get to them live. Let's see. So I don't know if I spent enough time. You've talked a little bit. You've talked about different initiatives that LeadingAge California has going on. Are there any others that we didn't talk about that you wanted to talk about?
Yeah, we have focused on initiatives that impact older adults in the state as well as caregivers. So it's been an enormous focus of ours over these past 5 or 6 years. We have an initiative called the California Integrated Care at Home program that focuses specifically on population health management for older adults who are living in affordable senior housing communities. And for those of you who may not know, many affordable housing communities are funded by the federal government under the HUD program. Some of that funding is a little bit at risk right now, but we're hoping that we can continue to advocate and make sure that it continues at the levels that it is now. But that project has there's been interest by the federal government, by CMS in this project. And we currently are doing a gap analysis at the request of the state. So the state asked us if we would do a gap analysis to assure that this was a needed project. We think that it could pair nicely with some of the activities in California related to CalAIM, which is essentially the modernization of the Medi-Cal program here in California. And that particular project is going to allow people to get some wraparound services, some long-term services and supports that they may not have been able to get under what is a traditional Medicaid program. So in California, it's Medi-Cal, but it is the traditional Medicaid program. So that's a very important project for us right now. We also have something that we were awarded through our collaboration with UC Berkeley Citrus Health, which is an innovation center for older adults. They created, along with two of our members, Front Porch and Eschaton, a project called the Lighthouse Project. And the Lighthouse Project is essentially a peer-to-peer training program for older adults to learn how to use technology at its basic level. And so we had applied, and they just announced last week that all of the funding was being clawed back by the federal government. So we're a little disappointed in that. But 2 years ago, UC Berkeley awarded us through a memorandum of understanding to be the keeper of the Lighthouse Project. And so we're hoping that we can continue, because as you point out, even though a lot of people have grown up with technology, and even if you're in your 60s, you have been around technology now for a long time.
Right.
Starting with fax machines, before they were the other things existed, and then of course, remote phone messaging, when you could get your voicemail.
Right.
So we've grown up with technology, but a lot of people who are older or maybe have other cultural differences, maybe they have language differences, maybe culturally they weren't as exposed, maybe they're from low-income households, so they weren't able to access certain things. So we think that this particular project, the Lighthouse Project, is an opportunity to bring that peer-to-peer training through a blueprint. I mean, we have a whole roadmap to train people, and we were hoping that the federal funding was going to bolster it. So that's a big project. We're still working on it. We're still hoping that we can get additional funding.
Okay.
We also have had some other projects now, which we're working on, trying to determine what the best path forward. We did create a diversity, equity, and inclusion project, which has been very important for our members to better understand communication styles, implicit biases that everyone has, and also then how to integrate within the context of the services our members provide. So we have a blueprint that's called the DEI Roadmap, which has been very helpful to our members. And of course, we know at the federal level, that's not a popular program right now. So we're looking at how we can modify, keep the same mission, obviously, but modify what we're focused on and talking about. We also have a very big initiative on positioning our members for innovation and diversification. So as we see more technology coming in, we want our members, and everyone, not just our members, but everyone, to be more educated on what's out there. So we started off talking about AI, and that's a perfect example. We have, for 3 years, we did our own innovation showcase and awarded a $10,000 award to entrepreneurs who are bringing up technology that we thought would be impactful to older adults. We've now partnered with the Longevity Summit, which is in June and funded by AARP in part, to support their innovation awards. So it is LeadingAge California's award at the Innovation Longevity Summit, June 10th and 11th in Oakland. So we continue to try to be cutting edge, to be innovative, to be bold, and also to be thoughtful about what's happening around us so that our members are prepared, so that older adults can receive what they need to receive, and also that we are a step ahead so that we're not taken by surprise by potential changes.
Yeah, thank you for that. I know just to go back to the diversity for a minute, because that's part of what we do at Aligned at Work, it's a piece of our leadership. we find that it's a good time for people to get their leadership teams together with a facilitator who can, like we would say in facilitator language, form the container of safety so they can really talk about what they believe in. And then how will they show that to the world, and what's the next evolution of DEI? That it isn't going to go away. It is going to look differently. It might be using different terms, but it is about including everyone. And I think aging services has had its challenges, I think, in the past, by not necessarily naturally including certain populations. Not LeadingAge California, but I mean, as I look at the history and who showed up in different places, we didn't have everybody there. We didn't have all the voices at the table. So I'm really glad to hear that, we're looking at what that next evolution is. But I do think it's like prime time for people to sit down and talk about it a little bit within their leadership teams. Mm-hmm. So that's a bit about, so let's talk a little bit about then from the consumer level. Let's say that for me and my husband, we are boomers. My husband's a little bit older than I am. So we've started those conversations about, if we had to leave our home, what would we do? And how do we know? Because my older brother took care of everything for my mom. My dad passed before he had to worry about anything, outside of living in the farmhouse where he'd grown up. But my mom did live for quite a while in one of the communities where you can go where there's independent living, and then across the street is assisted living. When you need nursing care, it's there. When you need memory care, it's there. Yeah. How does somebody navigate that? Are there sites that you send them to, or people that you send them to get a broad view without feeling like they have to make life-changing decisions right off the bat? Mm-hmm. But where do they get their knowledge from?
Right. It's a big dilemma for people. And the one comment I would make is it's never too early.
I would agree.
And people think they're not ready, even though they probably are ready.
Yes.
So I've never heard, in my 9 years of experience doing this work, I haven't ever heard somebody who said they moved in too early.
Yeah.
To a community or received a service that they thought they might not quite need yet. So I would say it's never too early.
Yeah.
So there are a number of things. There are in every state something called the Area Agencies on Aging, which are federally supported programs through the state. And those programs allow for people to seek resources. So when someone calls our office and said, I'm looking for, we often will say, have you reached out to your local area agency on aging, and then provide them with those resources. Because the area agency on aging usually has lists. They can give you some guidance, what you're looking for, and they have different levels. So you may not be looking for a high-end retirement community, or you may not be looking for senior affordable housing or affordable housing, but you may be looking for one or the other, or something in between, and they can help guide you. There also are many private services, many individuals who are guiding people now through this particular need, helping them identify what's in their geographic area. So when people call us, we usually refer them out, because we don't actually provide that particular service. Right. Although what I would say is almost every day now, I get a request from a friend. So I met a Laurie Battaglia calling me and saying, who do you know in San Diego? Who do you know in San Francisco? So it's happening all the time now. And, for assisted living, for skilled nursing facilities, for home care, for hospice, we're getting all those kind of requests. And to a limited degree, we only refer to our members.
Yeah.
And there might not be a member in your neighborhood. So you also, if you're in another state, you could reach out to your LeadingAge affiliate in your state. There are 39 of us around the country.
Wow.
So you can reach out in your own state. If you just Google LeadingAge Connecticut, LeadingAge Massachusetts, LeadingAge Pennsylvania, LeadingAge Florida, LeadingAge of the Southeast, LeadingAge of Oregon, you'll find us, we'll pop up. And you can also reach out to them, because some organizations may have a bit more information and may focus on it differently. So it's important to look at those resources. And then finally, depending on your own current circumstances, if you are looking for a family member or looking for yourself, which, you never know what the circumstances are.
Right.
It might be important to talk to your healthcare provider, because they might be able to give you an assessment and say, you really could use somebody in a couple of hours a week in your home to help you, or maybe have somebody come in and look at your own home circumstances. So there are home modification organizations like LifeWise Renovations in Kansas. LifeWise Renovations does have affiliates around the country, mostly in the Midwest. And those and other home remodeling companies will come in and they'll do some tweaks to your bathroom. That walk-in step up high bathtub that you've always been stepping into may not work anymore, and they may be able to help you identify a low-cost alternative. And some states pay for some of these low-cost alternatives. Like in California under Medi-Cal, there are home modification benefits. Not a lot of money, but it will help offset and maybe even pay for the whole thing, like a ramp in front of your house, or the shower stall that you needed 10 years ago but haven't gotten. So those are some suggestions.
There's in our area here in Phoenix, there's a place called Foundation for Senior Living, and there's a separate building out back where they have a big conference room that's just the perfect size for small meetings and things like that, maybe up to 25 people. And then when you go in the back, first time I was there, I was like, what is this? And they have they have a bedroom that's set up with all the things that make it easy to get in and out of bed. They have the bathroom that has all the things that make it easy to get showered and bathed and into the in and off the toilet. It's just all the things that if you haven't had to deal with that, you didn't even know they existed, which is why I find your BOLD conference so really interesting in the expo area where all the folks come to display things. My favorite one, by the way, is something called, I believe it's called ElderGrow, where they bring in little gardens and people garden and actually grow things, and they roll the carts in and out. And I just found that to be a fascinating thing that I didn't even know existed before I ever ran into LeadingAge California.
Right. They have actually just partnered with a new company. It is ElderGrow, but their new company, I believe, is called Eugelia, like Eugene, but Eugelia, if I recall correctly.
Okay.
And we received a grant several years ago to partner with them and put those gardens, which are literal gardens, in nursing homes to help people who were living in nursing homes have an engagement and awareness opportunity. So they've been great. And that grant also ends this year. It's from the federal government, but that's not why it's ending. It's ending because the term is up.
Okay. Well, that part's good. So hopefully there will be another source of income that comes in. It's just amazing to me the difference between when I was little and my grandmother was in the house with us and aging, and there was those nursing homes where nobody wanted to go to because they were depressing. And that's not the way it is anymore. So can we sort of twist the focus a little bit onto ageist language and what the proper terminology is, and what some of the don't say this, say that kind of things are? Because I always find it really fascinating when the language changes. And I know I'm probably guilty of saying some of the things that are from the past that really we've repositioned that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Mm-hmm. We all say things that are ageist all the time. And one of the most important term changes I think that we've made is using the term older adults rather than what some people might think is a cute term or might think is not a punitive term, but some people think it's punitive. Think something like seniors, we try to avoid. It's not always possible. Elderly is also sometimes derogatory. People don't always feel comfortable with that. And so we've tried to avoid those kind of terms. Another thing that happens, and for those of you who are listening who have young children, you might have experienced this. You have, at some elementary schools, they have the 100-year project, like somebody's 100 years old, come dressed up like a 100-year-old. And if you look on YouTube, there are a lot of 100-year-olds that don't fit the mold or category that you usually think of. The older person who's hunched over, but rather the older person who's running a marathon. So I think those are also some of the ageism things that we continue to do that promote ageism and don't promote well-being and healthy aging. So things like elderly honey is another one.
Yeah.
It's an endearing term, and a lot of people use it as an endearing term, but for as an ageist term, it can also seem very ageist. Those kind of terms like that tend to fall into that category. We have lots of resources. I don't think we have any on our website that deal with ageism, but if you Google ageism terms, lists will pop up that also have other terms. I think the main thing is just to be mindful who you're talking to. And is this somebody that you know, sort of like we went through the harassment kind of training and still go through harassment training. It's a little bit the same. Some things that used to be acceptable are no longer acceptable. And so we're trying to modify language so that people are not punitive, they're not derogatory terms.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a bit of an overview. LeadingAge National, our national partner and affiliate, they had an ageism campaign a few years ago. And we kind of countered on that, not countered, but tagged on to that with our own AgeOn Rageon campaign. And the AgeOn Rageon campaign came out in we launched it in 2019. And that was a 2-year campaign to raise awareness about older adults and their needs. And if you just go to ageonrageon.org, you'll see that it's a fun campaign. It still exists. And it was a very big social media campaign at the time. We were trying to educate the incoming governors, the candidates for governor. We were trying to educate our legislators, and also educate people who are working in the field, that there are a lot of older people who are thriving, and how can we continue to impact them?
Yes. So I'll admit that last year I went to my 50th high school reunion where I thought there were nothing, you know, back in the day, I thought, oh, those old people go to those. I mean, they looked so old, and here we are. I think it's funny. My mom used to say, your time will come. And I think that's the way with aging. I mean, ideally your time will come because you will be living a good life. And you know, in a perfect world, you'd be living a perfect life and going and aging on and raging on and all those kinds of things. But yeah, everybody's time comes. And if it's not you, it's somebody that's near and dear to you. So I think the topics that LeadingAge covers and advocates for and all those things, they affect everyone sooner or later. And that's why I think it's such an important conversation to have. But I did find that in my class, I'm stereotyping. This is like the tables around me and there was 160 people there, which I thought was pretty fabulous actually for a class of 500 and some. That many of us had not retired. Specifically, more of the men around me had retired and couldn't wait to get out of it. And women were working, doing the things like me that they had wanted to do for years. And they had no desire to really lay it down and stop working. And these are people that are a couple of years, you know, think about it, 50 plus 18, most of us are when we graduate. We're in our late 60s and people are really like, oh no, I'm just getting started. Yeah. So I think that's a good lesson for everybody, that we're not really ready to cave in and sit in a rocking chair and do all the things that historically we got told that's how it would go. No, it does not work that way. I'm happy to say.
I'll be 70 next week. So
cool.
I totally appreciate the, you know, thinking that I could live another 30 years and how engaged can we continue to be?
That's my plan. I just turned 69. So I am right there with you. And I'm looking forward to continuing to age and age well. And to stay vibrant and keep on doing things.
Yes.
So what didn't we talk about that you were hoping that we would? Were there any other topics that you'd like to cover?
Well, I think thinking about some of the challenges that leaders are addressing today is really important. You brought up workforce earlier, but also when you're in this service field, or when you're trying to look for services yourself, there are real economic impacts to individuals. And so for those of you who might be younger on this call and listening in, it is important to set aside some of your money and save for the future, whether your future is 5 years out or 20 years or 50 years out. It's important to start now and put a little bit aside, as much as you can, every week or every paycheck, even if it seems like a stretch. That one Starbucks a week might turn into hundreds or thousands of dollars in the future. So I think that's really important. So that economic impact, and thinking about the economic impact on your family members. So if you're looking, you mentioned before your husband and you are starting to talk about it. What is it that you can comfortably afford or think that you can afford? And then talk to some communities or talk to your financial advisor, who may or may not be familiar with retirement communities. You might want to visit a few places and just say, hey, what would this look like if I decided to go in that direction? Or an assisted living community, what would that look like? Or if I need home and community-based services, what would it look like if I needed somebody a couple of hours a day or a couple of hours a week, depending again on your circumstances? And sometimes that few hours can give somebody just the relief that they need. If your partner is debilitated and you are still active and healthy, that couple hours a week can be just what you need. In California and San Francisco in particular, for those people with dementia, we have a program associated with the Institute on Aging that's a very important program for people with dementia. And it's like a daycare program for people with dementia. So you pay a daily fee, or there are subscription type services. You get picked up, you go to their location in the Presidio, which is quite beautiful, especially on a day like today. It's gorgeous today. So those are the kind of services. You may have them in your neighborhood. There may be other opportunities for relief, because that's one of the biggest things that people need. They can't get away. They can't even sometimes take a bath or a shower. They can't go shopping. They need to get out and take a break from their own caregiving responsibilities. So that would be something I think, is a challenge. And to be a leader in this area, I feel like we need to promote, what do you need to do? Some other things that we're facing, I think, as we navigate some uncertainties in the current environment, are what are the reimbursement systems going to look like in the future? What is Medicaid going to look like? What is Medicare going to look like? And Medicare in particular, as we see millions and millions of people aging across the country, many people will go on to Medicare and are already on Medicare. So I think we need to continue to observe and pay attention to what's happening with those programs, and then either advocate on the position that you think it should be. Our position may be different than yours, or yours may be different than someone else's. So I think advocating on what you think might be best for you. And then finally, I would just say back to the workforce, and we did talk about this earlier, but it is training, pulling people in as early as possible and helping train them so that they can be supported, that they can grow in the field, and that there will be enough people working in housing, care, and services for older adults.
Yes, it's so important. And, and I know sometimes people will say, well, in my culture or when I grew up, we took care of our own in our home. And I just don't think that's as realistic as many people think it is, especially with people trying to work, trying to manage children, trying to manage aging folks. It's just a lot. It's not the same world as it used to be back in the day. So I absolutely agree with everything you said. And I also firmly agree, especially as a 37-year-old or 37 years of banking and finance in my background, it is never too early to start saving just a little bit, because it does build over time. And if you get in the habit and you do it without looking for it, in other words, automatic deposit, just put that stuff in that 401k if you have one, savings account if you don't, put it away, because the expenses as you age are more than you think they were going to be, especially around healthcare. I did not know that healthcare was going to cost as much as it did for us, and we're pretty healthy. So you just never know. So be prepared for that rainy day or that inevitable time that comes.
Mm-hmm.
So anything else that we should put up? What if people want to reach out to you or to LeadingAge? What's the best way to get in touch with you?
Mm-hmm. I think that there might be a pop-up. The best way to contact LeadingAge California is at info@leadingagecalifornia.org. And that will get you to the right person. I may not be the right person, so that's sort of a general email box, and you can send an email and we will make sure that somebody follows up or gives you the right resource to get in touch with. So those are, I think that's the best way. We do have an annual conference coming up. It's called BOLD, as we've been talking about. That is May 21st to the 23rd in San Diego for anyone who either wants to come to San Diego or might be there. We still are accepting registrations for that, but it's a pretty packed house already, so it's going to be very exciting. So we're thrilled about that. And also you can go just to our website, LeadingAge California, leadingageca.org. And that website is an area where we have lots of resources. We have lots of resources. All of our initiatives are spelled out there. You just have to play around with the website and find the right pull down. We also, importantly, we didn't talk about this. We also have a very important initiative around disaster preparedness. And we're hoping that we will be funded to help create a mutual aid program across California for those who are living in congregate settings. But the mutual aid program, we often will have disaster relief information on our website. I'm on the California Commission on Aging Board of Directors, and there's also information on the California Commission on Aging website and the California Department of Aging. Those are a couple of areas. But when there's a disaster, sometimes people just don't know where to go. Yeah. And you can always go to our website for information. When there's a fire, a flood, or a mudslide, we'll have that on our homepage. You click on that, and it will take you to some more resources.
Fantastic, because those things do happen, as we've seen over the past years, and just recently then in the LA area with the wildfires. So this has been fantastic. I really appreciate you coming on and spending your time with us. I don't think we have any more questions that people ask us, but thank you, Jeannee, and I will see you next week at Bold. And if people stay all the way to the end on Friday, I have one of those Friday morning slots to talk about creating inclusive cultures. And I can't wait to be there. It's always a fun time. And I get to see people that I haven't seen for a year. It's fantastic. So great. I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, thank you, Laurie. We're excited to have you as part of our program this year. And thank you again for including me today on Aligned.work.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Okay, everybody, we'll see you later.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.